Every currency in history has failed, and not a single one sent its people a warning first. If you think safety lives in your bank balance, you're trusting a promise that can disappear overnight. Because money isn't value, it's belief, and belief breaks. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how money dies, from ancient Rome to modern Argentina, and more importantly, what actually survives when currency collapses. We're told money is security, but history says otherwise. Rome's silver denarius turned to dust. Lebanon's banks froze every account. Argentina forces families to spend money before sunrise because prices rise by sunset. Silicon Valley Bank collapsed in 48 hours, not because it ran out of dollars, but because it ran out of trust. This isn't a conspiracy. This is a cycle, and there's only one type of wealth that survives it. But sure, your bank is different, just like every bank the day before it failed. You know, money isn't value. Money is, at its core, a contract of confidence. Let's take a look at some examples throughout history. Empire or nation, their so-called unbreakable money, and the final outcome. Rome had the denarius, which was 90% silver, but eventually it was debased to bronze and trust just collapsed. In Lebanon, the Lebanese pound lost over 90% of its value, and banks froze. Argentina's peso saw more than 30% annual inflation, making savings pretty much useless. And in the United States, Silicon Valley Bank's insured deposits were gone in just 48 hours of panic. Every collapse, honestly, starts the same way. People believe their money is safe. Then confidence breaks. Money just, well, evaporates. Collapse doesn't actually begin with panic. It begins with silence. So, Rome, the silent devaluation. The Roman denarius, you know, it actually began as silver. But then emperors shaved it, mixed it, and just kept debasing it. Citizens kept accepting it until, well, suddenly they didn't. And when trust broke, the empire broke with it. Lebanon, 2019. The banks will reopen soon. Banks locked withdrawals, supposedly just temporarily. People lost their life savings pretty much overnight. And honestly, nobody rang the alarm. Silicon Valley Bank, 2023, modern panic. A top-tier US bank, just gone in 48 hours. It wasn't a bankruptcy issue. It was a trust issue. When withdrawals surged, deposits basically became an illusion. Hey, go ahead and like this video now, before, you know, your bank app says temporarily unavailable. When systems collapse, there's really just one question that defines who loses and who leads. Do you hold something real? The survivors of every collapse, well, they held value that simply could not be printed or seized. So, let's take a look at who survived major financial collapses throughout history and honestly why they made it through. In the Roman era, it was landowners and those holding silver, because, well, those were tangible and tradable assets. During the Florence crisis, back in the 1340s, merchants who actually had goods on hand managed to survive since they had real inventory. After the Black Death, skilled laborers made it through simply because they could produce real value. And in Argentina, it was asset holders, people with dollars, gold, or real estate, who weathered the storm. The pattern here is honestly pretty absolute. Real assets, real skills, and real relationships always seem to outlive money itself. So you don't need to panic. What you really need is to reposition yourself. Build real value, not just a digital balance. That's what truly lasts. When we talk about real assets, we're looking at things like gold and silver, which have stood the test of time as stores of value. Land and food production are also crucial since they provide both security and sustainability. And honestly, having some cash on hand is just smart, especially in case of a bank freeze scenario. Real skills are, well, kind of the backbone of resilience. Practical abilities like carpentry, gardening, and building can be invaluable. On the professional side, skills such as negotiation, communication, and problem-solving are just as important. If you can solve people's needs, you'll never be broke. Real independence means you work to reduce bad debt, and you don't put all your trust in just one bank, one system, or one currency. Building optionality, having access to multiple sources of value, is key to staying adaptable and secure. Hit follow, unless your financial plan is just to hope the government fixes it. I told you at the start, every currency fails, but not everyone loses. Today, I showed you how collapse always begins quietly and why those holding promises lose everything. While those holding value don't just survive, they actually advance. This channel exists to prepare you, not to panic, but to position. If this opened your eyes, let me know in the comments. Are you focusing on assets, skills, or independence first? And hey, if you want a follow-up episode on how to build a hard asset strategy before crisis, just say the word. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out our Money Tree and Me profile for more helpful financial literacy videos. Money Tree and Me, providing better security and ensuring better lives.